Welcome back to the Property Management Show, where we deep dive into the world of property management, marketing, and entrepreneurship. Your hosts are Marie Tepman and Brittany Jones from 4.5 Marketing Agency. Since 2012, we have helped property managers like you grow their businesses by using marketing strategies that attract owner leads. Whether you need help with a website, SEO, online reputation, content, video, social media, paid advertising, you name it, we can help you. Visit our website, fourandhalf.com. That's FOURANDHALF.com. Today's guest is none other than Courtney Wolfe, who owns RentWise Property Management in Idaho. It's her first time ever on a podcast, so let's all give her a warm welcome. Welcome to our show, Courtney.
Oh, thank you, guys. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited for this conversation. And so, a bit of a background about you since it's your first time on our show. So you run a successful property management business in Boise, right? And, when it started, you were kind of doing everything, but you've gotten yourself to a point where you don't really have to spend much time or any time at all on the business because it runs itself. Can you share to our audience how you got to that state? Because I feel like that's the dream, but curious to know what steps you took to make it reality.
A lot of steps, a lot of backwards, a lot of forwards, right? But I mean, to get to the point where we're at now was really just big dreams, helped, and then down to micro, smaller, biteable, doable and reachable goals that we could get to. So we just took a big thing that we really wanted and broke it down into little pieces and worked on it over the years. That's really how we got here. And yeah, it's been awesome. There's two sides to that coin when you're an entrepreneur. You also still want to do things and create and serve and make money. So
can you expound more, kind of like, what pieces you saw in front of you, how you were able to kind of dissect and create sort of a plan to get from point A to point B?
I mean, for sure. On the first thing I did was I got a really, really great business coach. I needed some help. So somebody to hold somebody accountable. I didn't have a partner or a spouse or anyone I could talk to as a sounding board outside of the people who were doing day-to-day business with me. So I really needed that. So a business coach really helped me break it down into this is the vision. This is what we really want. Carly, who's my operations manager, who is amazing. And she is the one that runs kind of the umbrella of everything we've built. Without her, you definitely need, you need some buy-in, and you need people who are on your team and they're devoted and dedicated. So we took our goals together as we were in life, and we worked backwards, and we broke it down with a business coach. We found people who were smarter than us. We surrounded ourselves, and we took our own path on some things, and some things we stopped trying to reinvent the wheel. We found NARPM, which 3 years in, I spent 3 years doing things really, really hard until I found NARPM. So that was amazing, which is also how I met you.
And so I remember in one of our conversations previously, you talked about how your operations manager used to not be set up kind of for success, used to not be set up to kind of run everything. And so I remember you mentioned there was even a time she wanted to quit because she felt like, I can't do this anymore. Can you share with our audience kind of the journey of how you got her from that place of feeling like I can't do this anymore to the point where she was able to say, Courtney, you can step away. I got this.
Man, yeah, that was a long journey. I love talking about Carly. This will drive her crazy, but she is so amazing. I mean, without her, definitely none of this would have happened. And she did. She came to me, and that was kind of the catalyst into being a virtual property management company. She came to me and said, this is what I want out of my life. She had some of her own family things going on, and I had my own, and we were trying to just follow that corporate line. We had an office and brick and mortar. We had kids. We were trying to do it all. So she originally left because, she wasn't in a place that really gave her the credit she deserved for her brain and her skills. I call her a research rock star. This girl, she is the document queen, spreadsheet queen. She's amazing. I just knew I always could see all of the things, and she just needed to be given an opportunity to do it. She wanted to do it, and it grew over time. And then, of course, when people drink your Kool-Aid, and I got her buy-in, and she said, "This is what I want," and I was like, "That's it? Cool. I want that too. I want to work from home. How do we do that? What does that look like?" And that's how it started. And we worked our way backwards, and we found Jason Goldberg, my coach, who is in the health and wellness industry more so. I think he so coaches. He's amazing. So, yeah. And we worked our way backwards, and we built it the way we wanted. And then we decided, we got to points where we were like, "Hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?" We took the things we wanted to do, and we outsourced the things we didn't. And as the industry grew, I think that was part of it. We came in at a time where the industry technology was just exploding, and we found NARPM and all of the conferences and all of you guys, and it really just accelerated that whole process. And I didn't know any better. I didn't know what I didn't know. I wasn't running a 30-year-old family-run business. I was winging it. And so I think that helped too. I wasn't as scared, I think, to change the ways of traditional property management as other people might have been. Carly was very petrified on many, many, many levels. So that was great, right? Somebody's got to be grounded. Somebody's got to be the dreamer, and and then we get it done together.
You briefly mentioned Taskmasters, which is one of the businesses that you started that kind of complements the property management business. Can you talk more about how you got Taskmasters from an idea to launching it as legit business?
Not as a pretty of a story as the other way. It really just started with me. I mean, we were growing, and I was just one person, and Carly was just one person. So we basically ended up being split into boots on the ground stuff and owner related stuff, or management level stuff, to sitting behind the computer and answering the phone and being at everyone's mercy. And that's what we did all day. And so while I was out doing inspections and meeting owners and all the things that property, placing lock boxes and meeting tenants, and it was just everything, doing showings. It was just always checking on maintenance. Like, it was a never ending boots on the ground. And we were growing, and we needed an answer. And we had tried to hire several people over the years just to kind of help with some of these things and outsource it. And employees are hard. They just are. And I really find that when people have skin in the game, or they're responsible, like, I want people's buy-in. I'm probably not the best person to micromanage. I'm not a micromanager, probably the opposite. I need people to buy in because I need them to really take pride in what they do and do it with integrity and do it all the same, the consistency. So we all have to believe everything across the board. So, yeah, when that happened, we were just both in total overwhelm. This is before I think Carly quit. And so Carly's husband was also my handyman and had a full-time job. And I was like, "Hey, Mitch, can you just help me out a few times a week and do some of these inspections?" And he had one day off a week, this man. And he was like, "Yeah," because his wife worked for me, right? It just seemed like, and at the time it was just a quick fix, a Band-Aid. And I was gonna make another plan. But man, I trained him, right? I had been doing it. So I took him out. This is what we're doing. I showed him exactly what I wanted. He had no other previous preconceptions of anything. And he was great at checking the boxes. He wanted to do it exactly the way it needed to be done. And he did. And I was like, "Holy cow, you can just do this. I don't need to do this. You're probably better at it than I am. I'm frustrated. My mind is elsewhere. I'm running a company while I'm doing this. This makes no sense for me to be doing it." So that kind of was born a position, but not as an employee. I was like, "Yeah, I don't think you and your wife working for me is a good idea." That, right? That didn't make any sense. And so we set it up very separately, almost, just as a way to accommodate their marriage, so that there was that split between the two things, because he, it was more of like, he worked this full-time job and they had a family and I had a lot of freedom, and I really wanted her to have what she wanted too and what I had, and to be able to, they could barely go on vacation together. They hadn't been on vacation, I don't think, for like 8 years until they finally did. And because he was always working, or she was always working, and it was almost impossible for them to figure that out and make money back then. So yeah, we just saw it as this beautiful opportunity to bring him in the fold and actually do it better than I was ever doing it, and doing it our way. Then we had a friend who said, "Hey, can you do a couple for me?" And then someone else was like, "Hey, I heard that you guys were doing these. Can Mitch help me out?" And we were like, "Oh, we should probably make this a company. And what are we going to charge?" Right? Because at the time, so it kind of just accidentally happened.
How is Taskmasters doing now? Like, are you expanding your services?
Man, that's so on the table, and I don't know what we're, yes. The answer is yes. I am so super slow and steady. I do not like to rush into anything. We've been going, so this spring will be 4 years that we've been doing Taskmasters. And it seems kind of crazy and we've had just the same consistent clients. We haven't really grown because it was really to provide a service for us, and then for our little NARPM community, and a few other like realtors we did business with. And so we've kind of kept it small, but it's started to grow. And now we're doing our local vendor fair again. And then we've been asked to start other Taskmasters in other states by other property managers. And so we've spent the last year kind of wrapping our head around that. And I think we're about to do that instead. We are going to set it up in more of a franchise type of setting, because I'm a big fan of everybody being their own boss and being in control. How much do you want to work? How much money do you want to make? Like, this is what the market tolerates. I know that anybody can do this. And then what really was the catalyst into putting our energy into this was I have an employee a virtual assistant that I hired who's worked for us for several years. And her husband will be retiring from the military soon. And so it's such a good opportunity for him to open something that he can do on his own. And we saw an opportunity of like, yeah, that's exactly why I did it, right? To control all of that. So I believe that's the direction that we're heading now with Taskmasters.
So were there any like big challenges or setbacks that made you doubt that should we continue doing this, along the way? Or has it always just been like, let's just focus on one step in front of the other?
I'm more of like a next step. Not that I've had several really great big ideas that really were super fails, and some of them expensive, right? And some of them time consuming. Over the years, I've learned to identify, what's a good opportunity, what's feasible. And I like slow and steady. Yeah. So whatever we do, we'll roll out, and it will be super intentional. I don't want to put anything out that I can't back up, and I want to make sure it's built to benefit everyone involved, right? So,
are you comfortable sharing any of those failures or those ideas that didn't quite pan out?
I've got a couple of overly embarrassing ones, but business related. I once tried to create an app that I thought was going to be awesome for tenants. It was actually pre-inspection apps, but what it did make me realize is NARPM, how valuable NARPM was, right? I was trying to reinvent the wheel of something that was already created, but that I honestly wasn't capable of finding for some reason, right? I wasn't Googling the right thing. I wasn't asking the right questions. And that's where NARPM came in and kind of enlightened me to, hey, stop doing that. There's technology out there. But yes, I paid someone thousands of dollars once to help me with this inspection app because at the time AppFolio's inspection stuff was not great still. We don't use that. We use other software. We use Z Inspector, like it's not proprietary. We love Z Inspector. Those guys are amazing. Their technology is amazing. And that's why we use it for Taskmasters, because then everyone can keep their own Z Inspector accounts, and I don't own their information. And it's a really safe space for them to keep their information and to themselves, and they don't have to share it. We just do the work. But
Z Inspector was also started by a property manager.
Yep, it was. Most of these, like Easy Repair, they totally were started. Andy was a property manager as well. Lots of them were, because we see the pain points and we're like, ooh, I got a solution for that. And we are all brilliant at creating them. I love all of the things that have come out in the last even 5 years. I feel so lucky to kind of been on the cusp of that and not have any feelings about any of the technology, because it didn't really exist the way it does now, right? Like showings, the lockbox showings, right? When that first started coming out, it just seemed it was such a hard sell. And now, like, I can't imagine. We immediately did it because we weren't thinking about that people were going to break in. We were actually more thinking about our safety and like, hey, this is better for everyone. We're thinking about fair housing laws and discrimination. I'm thinking, Carly's safety, my safety, like we shouldn't be in these houses, all of those things happening. And I think it had just been such a traditional thought to do showings in person for so long because we're so closely related to real estate. But in our industry, I felt like the self-showing boxes were a huge, huge benefit to everyone across the board in every way. And Taskmasters created a way. I was like, I'm worried too, right? I'm worried that, so we do vacant house checks through Taskmasters. So we check the houses in between the showings and however many times a week people want them. And it's a great solution to saving the time, employees' time, outsourcing something, third-party eyes on it, right? So that it's just the work is spread out and it's more doable. And then owners or whoever, right? Is your leasing agent also doing inspections? Is your bookkeeper also, doing whatever? And that's what we had. A lot of cross-contamination that didn't make sense. And the technology really made it easy to break up what used to be all on one property manager into little tiny pieces that we can utilize. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing how much technology has grown in the industry the last several years. And so kind of going back to, like these ventures that, you want to pursue. So back when we spoke last time, you were trying to start this other venture related to application screening. And I think like something changed. You're no longer pursuing that. Like, what's your process for vetting which ideas should be pursued? And at what point should you like give up, right? Because like cut your losses, move on. Do you have a process? Is it gut feel? Do you have like a discussion with team members?
I do collect a lot of information. One of my favorite quotes is, don't keep making the same mistake just because you spent a long time making it. Carly hears me say that a lot. I've gotten I totally do what people do, right? You hang on, you put all this work and effort into it. The app that I did, I also paid, I paid a guy because it was too cheap. This is another fail to redo my website. I paid him to do it, and it was a horrific experience, right? Thousands of dollars. I remember paying someone for Google Ads, also total waste, because I didn't have a way to know whether they were doing their job or not, right? And I realized those were the big financial mistakes that you make because you don't know what you don't know. And you listen to who you think are experts. So when we found NARPM, those guys became the experts in those people. But the way that I go through, I mean, some of my ideas are ridiculous. A lot of times I pick up the phone and I call Carly and I talk it through with her. The application screening, that was more so I get to a certain point in the planning process where I feel like it's a bandwidth thing. How much energy can we put into this thing while we're also still serving who we need to serve? And I mean, I usually try to break it into that, like a little time block, so that I'm only devoted to that. And if it's going to require a lot of more time than I have to offer, then it kind of goes on the back burner. Financially, it's also an industry, turns out, application screening, right? We can dive into it, but it's going to take a lot of more information. And another opportunity came up. So I'll just put that over there. It's not gone, just over there. And usually what happens during that time, if I kind of put it in a little incubate it'll come out another way if it's something that's feasible. Either technology will come out or something will change. I really don't have a solid process for vetting it. Some of them are ridiculous. Some of them are feasible. Some of them we get halfway through and we're like, we're going to have to wait on that. Because I don't know, right? But I try to stay in my lane. And I try to focus on one service and not do too many things at one time.
I think that's a common mistake, especially for like visionary type people. Mm-hmm. They get so excited about all these ideas and they feel like we have to try everything because, you know, it's like spaghetti, you know, it's throwing spaghetti at a wall. Like you have to try all of them now so that like 6 months down the line, we know it's going to stick. But it's like, yeah, but you're kind of half-assing each and every one of them if you're doing all of them at once.
Yeah, you can't do multitasking. I realize people do it, right? But in a more broad sense, of course, we multitask all the time. But in business, yeah, I think it's really important to find a focus and do what you do really, really well before you move on to something else. Make it exact. And that's part of the delay, right? Is I won't move on from one business to another one until the core. Like RentWise is kind of our core. And if some of those, wheels are broken or there's a gap in the system, we have to go back and rebuild that before we can move on to something else.
Do you have any advice for your fellow property managers who may have like all these ideas for like a side business or opportunities, but they're scared to take the first step or they're just unsure what to do next?
I would tell people, get clear on what you're good at. You have to take your big vision. You have to break it down because, it's too overwhelming to take over everything. I do want to, while we're talking about this, part of this process thing, the core of how to do that is processes. Errol Allen he came here, we hired him, a group of us property managers many, many years ago when this started. And he has been so awesome. So I just want to give him credit for teaching us how to write processes really so simple, but it changes the foundation of everything, right? And you write everything as if a 5-year-old can do it. And it seems like such a crazy concept, but that's what we do. We still do it to this day. If our kids can't sit down and do it, it's not going to work.
I'm also a big fan, so is Brittany, of processes. And I feel like they are this like unsung heroes of business because people think, oh, they're just shapes and arrows. But the clarity you get when you put a process in paper of like, oh, things are getting dropped at this step. Like, oh, we never taken into account this other probability at this step. It's just, there's no other way to get to that clarity, outside of just writing down your processes and procedures, like as if it's your meaning for
it's the key to my freedom. That's it. I think that's why I wanted to say, listen, Errol did such a great job. There was a group of us that did it. And afterwards he was available and it seemed like such a simple concept after he was done, as most things do when you figure it out. But processes are really the foundation of all of that. There's no way for me to get my freedom and for me to live this life without our processes documented so ridiculously detailed. Hopefully. I've never had a 5-year-old do them. I just want to
I know. I kind of want to see them now. I'm like, would I understand?
Yeah. So Carly and I just did our processes back and forth. She would write one, I would write one, then we would do it each other. I didn't know anything about what she was doing and she didn't know what I was doing. These were jobs that neither of us had ever done before. So we walked each other through it and that's how we did it. We only had each other. And so, and we were the only ones who knew really and how we wanted it done. And processes are very individual to the company, right? It has a lot to do with how you function as a company and what your state laws are and all of that. But Errol can teach anyone.
So how often do you review your processes and procedures? Because so many things change,
Constant,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I say it's always ever changing. I would say when we find, that there might be a little gap or if a question comes up, usually the trigger to knowing that our processes need updated is something goes wrong, right? And then we're like, oh, okay, well, how do we fix it now? And then how do we fix it so it never happens again? We literally just did that. We've had, the emotional support, animals, all of the animal stuff is and that stuff changes all the time. It's updated, right? People have different viewpoints of it. We want to make sure that we are being clear in our message. And we've had some recent things happen, right? So we've had to revisit some of that and say, wow, okay, if this was a problem and we didn't communicate it well, how do we need to change our verbiage? Where do we need to change it, right? So the first thing is, what are we going to do about it? And then Carly has to list, where is all of this located? It's on our website. It's on our lease. We have to put it on our application page. There's laws, there's rules. And even if there's not, I love over communicating, right? Don't miss this. And so, I think, when there's an issue is when you know that there might be a gap in your process. And then we go back and try to fill that gap. And we like to get other people's feedback. That's why we like the virtual assistants too. They're amazing at finding the gaps, right? They don't know anything about what we do. So you give them your process you've built and they're like, that didn't work, right? We're missing a step here. We're missing, I need a script for this. Or they're really great about, this is a question that has come up. And when we first started trying to preemptively help people, Carly, we would have, because she answered the phone and I'm driving around all day, we're both trying to keep track, but basically a phone record of every call that comes in. What is it about? And we did that for a couple of weeks. It's amazing. You find everyone's pain point. Most of them are pretty similar.